The morning alarm rang through the small metal room. Tejo opened his eyes slowly and looked at the ceiling. Another day on Colony Vera 7. He had lived here for 6 years now, far away from Earth, far away from everything he once knew. He sat up on his bed and rubbed his face with both hands. The room was cold, as always. The heating system in this section of the colony never worked properly. He had fixed it many times, but it always broke again. Tejo was a maintenance engineer. He fixed things. Pipes, wires, machines, doors. If something broke on the colony, someone called him. It was simple work, but honest work. It paid enough to keep him and his daughter alive. His daughter, Yuna. He stood up quickly and walked to the small room next to his. The door slid open without a sound. Inside, a little girl of 7 years slept under 3 thick blankets. Her breathing was slow and soft. Her face looked pale, even in the dim light. Tejo watched her for a moment. His heart hurt every time he saw her like this. Yuna was born sick. The doctors on Earth said she had a rare blood condition. Her body could not keep itself warm. Her blood did not carry enough oxygen. She was always tired, always cold, always weak. He had brought her to this colony because the doctors said the air here might help. The atmosphere on Vera 7 had more oxygen than Earth. Maybe it would make her stronger, they said. Maybe, but 3 years had passed, and Yuna was still sick. Some days were better than others. Some days she could walk around and play. Other days, she could barely leave her bed. Today looked like one of the bad days. Tejo walked closer and put his hand on her forehead. It was cool to the touch. Too cool. He pulled the blankets higher around her small body. "Sleep well, little one," he whispered. "I will come back soon." He left the room quietly and went to the kitchen. It was not really a kitchen, just a small corner with a heating plate and some cabinets. He made 2 bowls of warm soup and left one covered for Yuna. She would eat when she woke up. Tejo put on his work jacket and grabbed his tool bag. Before leaving, he looked back at his daughter's room one more time. Then he stepped out into the colony. Vera 7 was not a beautiful place. It was a large station built into the side of a rocky mountain. Metal walls, metal floors, metal ceilings. Everything was gray and brown. The air always smelled like machines and recycled water. About 5,000 humans lived here. They came from Earth to mine rare metals from the planet's core. The colony had been running for 20 years now. It was old, tired, and always breaking down. That was why they needed people like Tejo. But humans were not the only ones who lived on Vera 7. The Valari lived here too. Tejo walked through the main corridor toward the engineering section. On his way, he passed the large window that looked out over the Valari district. He stopped for a moment to watch. The Valari were dragon-like creatures. They had long bodies covered in scales that shined like jewels. Their eyes glowed with inner fire. They had wings, though most of them kept their wings folded against their backs inside the colony. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but they were much taller. The smallest adult Valari was 3 meters tall. They were beautiful. They were terrifying. They were old. The Valari had lived on this planet for thousands of years before humans arrived. When the first human ships came, there was almost a war. The Valari did not trust the strange creatures from the sky. But after many years of talking, both sides agreed to share the planet. Humans would mine the metals. Valari would continue their ancient ways. Both groups would live in peace but stay apart. That was the agreement. Humans and Valari coexisted, but they did not mix. They had their section of the colony. Humans had theirs. They saw each other sometimes in the common areas, but they rarely spoke. They were too different. Tejo had worked on Vera 7 for 6 years. In all that time, he had never spoken to a Valari. He had seen them walk past. He had heard their deep, rumbling voices. But he had never talked to one directly. He did not hate them. He did not fear them. He simply did not know them. The only thing he knew about the Valari was that they protected their young with fierce devotion. The Valari nursery was in the deepest part of their district. No human had ever seen inside. No human was ever allowed to go near. The Valari babies, called hatchlings, were sacred to them. They kept them warm in communal nests, where many families shared the duty of raising the young. It was their most important tradition. Tae-ho had heard stories. Some workers said the hatchlings were kept in rooms filled with fire. Others said the hatchlings could already breathe flames when they were born. Nobody knew for sure. The Valari did not share such things with outsiders. He turned away from the window and continued walking. He had work to do. The engineering section was busy as always. Pipes hissed with steam. Machines hummed with power. Workers moved back and forth, carrying tools and parts. Tae-ho reported to his supervisor, a tired old man named Dong-soo. "The heating grid in Section C is down again," Dong-soo said. "Can you take a look?" "Section C, that is near the Valari district." "Yes, but the problem is on our side of the wall. You will not need to go into their area." Tae-ho nodded. "I will fix it." He gathered his tools and made his way to Section C. It was a long walk through narrow corridors and old tunnels. The lights flickered in some places. The floor shook slightly from the mining machines deep below. When he reached Section C, he found the problem quickly. A connection had broken in the main heating pipe. Hot water was leaking onto the floor instead of flowing to the rooms. He knelt down and began to work. It was a simple fix, but it would take time. He needed to cut the old pipe, clean the connection, and weld a new piece in place. As he worked, he thought about Yuna. He always thought about Yuna. What would happen to her if the doctors could not help? What would happen if she never got better? He had already spent all his savings on medicine and treatments. Nothing worked for long. He was just one man, a simple engineer. He could fix machines, but he could not fix his daughter. The thought made his hands shake. He stopped working for a moment and closed his eyes. "Stay strong," he told himself. "For her, stay strong." He opened his eyes and continued working. The pipe was almost fixed. Far away, in their small room, Yuna woke up from her sleep. She was cold. So very cold. The blankets were not enough. The soup her father left was not warm anymore. She wrapped the blanket around her shoulders and stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak, but she wanted to move. She wanted to find warmth. She walked out of the room and into the corridor. The lights were dim. Everyone was at work. Nobody saw the small, pale girl walking alone through the empty halls. Yuna did not know where she was going. She just followed the feeling of warmth. Somewhere ahead, she could feel heat. Real heat. Like a fire burning in the distance. She walked toward it. She did not know that she was walking toward the Valari district. She did not know that she was about to change everything. Yuna walked slowly through the corridors. Her bare feet made soft sounds on the cold metal floor. The blanket around her shoulders dragged behind her like a long tail. She was so tired, but she kept moving. The warmth was calling her. She could feel it growing stronger with each step. It was like the sun she remembered from Earth. Like the warm hugs her father gave her on cold nights. She wanted to reach it. She needed to reach it. The corridors became wider. The walls changed from gray metal to dark stone. Strange symbols were carved into the stone. They looked like fire and wings and eyes. Yuna did not understand them, but she thought they were pretty. She did not notice that she had crossed into the Valari district. She did not see the warning signs that said humans must not enter. She only felt the warmth, and she followed it. The air became hotter. Yuna smiled a little. For the first time that day, she did not feel cold. Her fingers were not stiff anymore. Her body stopped shaking. She turned a corner and found a large door. It was made of red metal and covered with more symbols. The door was open just a little bit. Golden light came through the gap. The warmth flowed out like a river. Yuna pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was huge. The ceiling was so high that Yuna could not see the top. The walls were covered with soft, glowing crystals that made everything look like sunset. In the center of the room was a large pit filled with something that looked like sand, but it glowed with inner heat. And in that pit, curled together in a big pile, were baby dragons. Yuna stopped and stared. She had never seen anything so beautiful in her whole life. The baby dragons were small, about the size of large dogs. Their scales were many colors. Some were red like fire. Some were blue like the sky. Some were green like grass. Some were gold like the sun. They had tiny wings folded against their backs. Their eyes were closed in peaceful sleep. There were so many of them. Maybe 20 or 30. All piled together in the warm sand. They breathed slowly, and tiny puffs of smoke came from their noses. Yuna stood at the edge of the pit. The warmth wrapped around her like a soft blanket. She felt so good, so warm, so safe. Her tired legs gave out, and she sat down on the edge of the pit. Then she lay down in the warm sand, just at the edge, not wanting to disturb the sleeping babies. Within seconds, she was asleep. The baby dragons stirred. One of them, a small red one, opened its golden eyes. It looked at the strange creature that had entered their nest. It sniffed the air with its tiny nose. The red hatchling felt something strange. This creature was cold, very cold. It was sick. It was weak. The hatchling could sense it like Valari always could. The red hatchling chirped softly. Other hatchlings woke up. They all looked at the human child. They communicated without words, the way their kind always did. This creature needs warmth. This creature needs help. Slowly, carefully, the hatchlings moved. They crawled over to where Yuna lay sleeping. One by one, they curled up around her. The red one pressed against her back. A blue one lay across her legs. A gold one tucked itself under her arm. Soon, Yuna was completely surrounded by warm, breathing dragon babies. Their natural heat flowed into her cold body. The glow of their scales made her look like she was sleeping in a pile of jewels. The hatchlings closed their eyes and went back to sleep. The human child was one of them now. They would keep her warm. Far away in Section C, Taeho finished his repair work. He wiped the sweat from his face and stood up. The heating pipe was fixed. Hot water was flowing again. He looked at his watch and realized 3 hours had passed. It was almost noon. Yuna should be awake by now. She would need her medicine. He packed his tools quickly and walked back through the corridors. His steps were fast. He always worried when he was away from her for too long. When he reached their room, he opened the door with a smile on his face. "Yuna, I am back. Did you eat your soup?" There was no answer. He walked to her room. The bed was empty. The blankets were gone. "Yuna?" He checked the bathroom. Empty. He checked every corner of their small home. Empty. His heart began to race. Where was she? He ran out into the corridor. He asked the neighbors. No one had seen her. He ran to the common area. She was not there. He ran to the medical center. She had not come in. Panic filled his chest. His little girl was lost somewhere in the colony. She was sick. She was weak. She could barely walk on her own. He reported her missing to colony security. Within minutes, search teams spread out across the human sections. They checked every room, every corridor, every hiding place. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. No one could find Yuna. Taeho was going crazy with fear. He ran through the halls himself, calling her name again and again. "Yuna, Yuna, where are you?" His voice echoed off the metal walls. There was no answer. A security officer approached him with a worried face. "Sir, we have searched everywhere in the human sections. There is only one place left." "Where?" The officer pointed toward the large window. "Toward the Valari district. The sensors show that someone small entered their area about 4 hours ago. We think it might have been your daughter." Taeho felt his blood turn cold. The Valari district. The Forbidden Zone. No human was allowed there, especially not near their young. "We have contacted the Valari elders," the officer said. "They are very upset. They are coming to meet us at the border." Taeho did not wait. He ran toward the Valari district as fast as his legs could carry him. He did not care about rules or agreements or forbidden zones. His daughter was in there. His sick little girl was surrounded by dragons. When he reached the border, 3 Valari elders were already waiting. They were massive creatures, twice his height, with scales the color of dark storms. Their eyes burned with anger. Human. One of them spoke. Its voice was deep like thunder. Your child has entered our sacred nursery. This is a great crime. I am sorry, Teho said quickly. She is just a little girl. She is sick. She does not understand. No human may enter the nursery. This has been our law for 1,000 years. She is my daughter. She could be dying right now. Please, I am begging you. The elders looked at each other. They seemed to be talking without words, the way Valari did. We will go to the nursery, the first elder said. You will wait here. If your child has harmed our hatchlings in any way, there will be great consequences. She would never hurt anyone. She is just a child. A sick child. The elders turned and walked into their district. Teho tried to follow, but 2 guards stepped in front of him. They were young Valari warriors, strong and fierce. You must wait, one of them said. Teho stood at the border and watched the elders disappear into the dark stone corridors. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. Tears formed in his eyes. Please be okay, he whispered. Yuna, please be okay. Please be okay. He did not know what he would find. He did not know if his daughter was alive or dead. He only knew that he had never been more scared in his entire life. The minutes felt like hours. The guards watched him with cold eyes. The border between human and Valari sections had never felt so large. Then, finally, he heard footsteps coming back. The elders appeared in the corridor. But they looked different now. The anger was gone from their eyes. Instead, they looked shocked, confused. Something they had seen had changed everything. Human. The first elder said slowly. You must come with us. You must see this for yourself. Teho did not ask questions. He followed them into the Forbidden District, into the heart of Dragon territory, toward his daughter, and whatever waited for him there. Teho followed the Valari elders through dark corridors he had never seen before. The walls were made of ancient stone, carved with pictures of dragons and fire and stars. The air was warm and smelled like smoke and something sweet he could not name. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might break out of his chest. What had they found? Why did they want him to see it himself? Was Yuna hurt? Was she alive? The elders walked in silence. Their huge bodies moved smoothly, like water flowing over rocks. Teho had to almost run to keep up with their long steps. They passed through many rooms and tunnels. Teho saw things no human had ever seen before. Great halls filled with glowing crystals, libraries with books made of metal and fire, gardens where strange plants grew without soil or water, but he could not stop to look. He could only think about his daughter. Finally, they reached the nursery. The great red door stood open. Golden light spilled out into the corridor. Go inside, the first elder said. Look. Teho stepped through the door. The warmth hit him like a wave. The room was beautiful, filled with soft light from the glowing walls. In the center was the large pit of warm sand, and there, in the middle of the pit, was his daughter. Yuna lay sleeping peacefully, but she was not alone. All around her, pressed against her body, were baby dragons. Red ones, blue ones, gold ones, green ones. They had curled around her like a protective blanket. Their scales glowed softly. Their tiny bodies rose and fell with gentle breathing. Teho's legs became weak. He almost fell to his knees. Yuna, he whispered. One of the hatchlings opened its eyes. It was a small red one, pressed against Yuna's back. It looked at Teho with golden eyes but did not move. It did not seem afraid or angry. It just watched him calmly. Then something amazing happened. Yuna's eyes opened. She looked up and saw her father standing at the edge of the pit. A smile spread across her face. Daddy, she said. Her voice was soft but clear. Teho felt tears run down his cheeks. Yuna, are you okay? Are you hurt? I am not hurt, Daddy. I feel warm. I feel good. Teho looked at her more carefully. Something was different. Her face, which was always so pale, now had color in it. Her cheeks were pink. Her lips were no longer blue. She looked more alive than he had seen her in years. What happened to you? He asked. The babies found me, Yuna said simply. They made me warm. The Valari elders had entered the room behind Teho. They stood watching the scene with wide eyes. Their confusion was clear on their ancient faces. This is not possible, one of them said. The hatchlings have never done this before. Done what? Teho asked. They are sharing their fire with her. Teho did not understand. Their fire? The elder stepped closer to the pit. He looked down at the sleeping hatchlings and the human child in their center. Valari hatchlings are born with inner fire. It is what gives us our power, our life, our warmth. Normally, they only share this fire with other Valari, never with outsiders, never with other species. But they are sharing it with my daughter? Yes. Look at her skin. Look at the color in her face. They are giving her their heat. They are healing her. Teho stared at his daughter. It was true. She looked healthier than she had in years. The hatchlings were doing something to her, something wonderful. Why? He asked. Why would they do this? The elder was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly. Valari hatchlings can sense sickness. They can feel when a creature is weak or dying. It is an old instinct from ancient times, when we helped each other survive the cold. But we thought this instinct only worked for our own kind. Your daughter was very sick, another elder added. Very cold. Very close to death. The hatchlings must have sensed this when she entered the nursery. They did what their instincts told them to do. They gave her warmth. Teho looked at the baby dragons with new eyes. These creatures, these tiny dragons, had saved his daughter's life. They had done something that no doctor, no medicine, no technology could do. Can I take her home? He asked. The elders looked at each other. They seemed to be talking again without words. That would not be wise, the first elder finally said. If you remove her now, she might get cold again. The healing is not finished. Then what do I do? You wait. You stay here with her. Let the hatchlings complete their work. Teho nodded. He carefully stepped into the pit, moving slowly so he would not scare the hatchlings. The warm sand felt good under his feet. He sat down next to his daughter and gently took her hand. I am here, Yuna. I am not going anywhere. Yuna smiled and closed her eyes again. The hatchlings shifted around her, making room for Teho but never leaving her side. The red hatchling that had been watching Teho chirped softly. Then it crawled over and pressed against his leg. Its scales were warm like sunlight. Teho was surprised. What is it doing? Teho was surprised. It seems to like you, an elder said. There was wonder in his voice. The hatchlings have never shown such trust to a human before. More hatchlings began to stir. Some of them crawled toward Teho and curled up around him. Others stayed with Yuna. Soon, both father and daughter were surrounded by warm, breathing baby dragons. Teho felt something change inside him. The fear and worry that had lived in his heart for so many years began to fade. In this warm room, surrounded by these amazing creatures, he felt peace. Thank you, he said to the hatchlings. Thank you for saving my daughter. The hatchlings chirped and purred in response. They did not understand his words, but they seemed to understand his feelings. The elders watched in silence. What they were seeing was impossible. It went against everything they believed about the separation between species. Yet here it was, happening right in front of their eyes. A human child, embraced by dragon babies. A human father, accepted into the sacred nest. Two species, brought together by nothing more than the simple instinct to help those who were weak and cold. What do we do now? One of the younger elders asked. The oldest elder, who had lived for many centuries, took a deep breath. We watch. We learn. Perhaps the old ways are not the only ways. Perhaps there is room for something new. Teho did not hear their conversation. He was too focused on his daughter. He watched her sleeping face, saw the color in her cheeks, felt the warmth flowing from the hatchlings into her body. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to hope. Maybe things would be different now. Maybe his little girl would finally get better. Outside the nursery, word began to spread through the colony. Humans whispered about the maintenance worker whose daughter had wandered into the dragon nest. Valari talked about the hatchlings who had chosen to heal an outsider. No one knew what it meant. No one knew what would happen next. But everyone felt that something important had begun. Something that would change the relationship between humans and Valari forever. And at the center of it all was a little girl named Yuna, sleeping peacefully in a pile of dragon babies, finally warm after being cold for so long. 3 days passed. Tejo stayed in the Valari nursery with his daughter. He did not go to work. He did not go back to their small room. He only left the nursery to get food and water, and he always came back quickly. The Valari allowed this. It was strange and new, but they did not stop him. The elders said it was important to watch what happened, and what happened was amazing. Every day, Yuna grew stronger. Her pale skin became healthy and pink. Her thin body began to gain weight. Her tired eyes became bright and full of life. The hatchlings continued to share their warmth with her, day and night, never leaving her side. On the second day, she was able to sit up and play with the baby dragons. They brought her small, shiny stones and smooth pieces of metal. They chirped and purred when she petted their scales. They blew tiny puffs of warm air at her face to make her laugh. On the third day, she was able to stand up and walk around the nursery. The hatchlings followed her like a colorful parade. The red one that had first found her never left her side. Yuna named him Sol, because his scales glowed like the sun. Tejo watched all of this with tears in his eyes. His daughter, who had been so sick for so long, was finally getting better. The impossible was happening right in front of him. On the morning of the 4th day, a Valari healer came to the nursery. Her name was Valisa, and she was one of the most respected healers in the colony. Her scales were silver with hints of blue, and her eyes were deep purple. She had been studying Yuna from a distance for the past 3 days. Now she wanted to examine her more closely. "May I look at your daughter?" she asked Tejo. Her voice was softer than the other Valari he had met. Tejo nodded. "Please. I want to know if she is truly getting better." Valisa approached Yuna slowly. The hatchlings watched the healer carefully, but did not try to stop her. They seemed to understand that she was there to help. Valisa placed her large hand gently on Yuna's forehead. She closed her eyes and stood very still. Tejo watched nervously. After a long minute, Valisa opened her eyes. There was wonder on her ancient face. "This is remarkable," she said. "I have never seen anything like this in all my years." "What do you mean?" Tejo asked. "Your daughter's blood. Before, it was cold and weak. It could not carry enough life through her body. But now, it is changing. The hatchlings have shared something with her. Something we call the Ember." "The Ember?" Valisa nodded slowly. "All Valari carry a small fire inside them. We call it the Ember. It is what gives us our warmth, our strength, our long life. We are born with it. We carry it until we die." She looked at Yuna with amazement. "Your daughter did not have an ember. Humans are not born with one. But the hatchlings have given her a piece of theirs. Many pieces, from many hatchlings. Together, they have created a small ember inside her." Tejo struggled to understand. "You mean, she has dragon fire inside her now?" "A very small one. Not enough to breathe flames or anything like that. But enough to warm her blood. Enough to give her strength. Enough to heal her sickness." Tears fell from Tejo's eyes. He had hoped, but he had been afraid to believe. Now it was real. "She will be okay?" he asked. Valisa smiled. It was strange to see a dragon smile, but it was warm and kind. "She will be more than okay. She will be strong. She will live a long life. The sickness that was killing her cannot touch her anymore." Tejo fell to his knees. He could not speak. He could only cry with happiness. Yuna walked over to her father and hugged him tightly. She was strong enough to hug now. She was warm enough to comfort him. "Do not cry, Daddy," she said. Everything is okay now. I know, little one, he whispered. I know. The hatchlings gathered around them both. They chirped and purred, happy to see their human friends happy. Saul, the red one, pushed his head against Teho's hand, asking to be petted. Valisa watched the scene with thoughtful eyes. Then she spoke again. There is something else you should know. What the hatchlings have done is very rare. In all our history, I can only find one other time when this happened, and that was thousands of years ago, when a Valari shared their ember with a dying creature to save its life. Why did the hatchlings do it? Teho asked. They did not know us. We are strangers to them. Because they are young. Because they are pure. Because they have not learned the rules that tell us to stay separate from other species. Valisa paused. They saw a creature in need, and they helped. That is all. The oldest Valari elder, who had been watching from the doorway, stepped into the room. This changes things, he said. His voice was slow and heavy with the weight of many years. The treaty between our peoples says we must stay apart. But these hatchlings have made your daughter one of us. Teho looked up. What does that mean? It means she carries Valari fire. It means she is connected to these hatchlings forever. They will always feel her. She will always feel them. Distance cannot break this bond. The elder looked at Yuna with something like respect. In our language, we have a word for this. We call it nestkin. It means family of the nest. Your daughter is now nestkin to these hatchlings. Yuna's eyes went wide. I have dragon family now? The elder nodded. Yes, little one. You have dragon family now. Yuna looked around at all the hatchlings. Red ones, blue ones, gold ones, green ones. They looked back at her with glowing eyes. 20 or 30 baby dragons, all connected to her, all part of her life forever. She started to laugh. It was the happiest sound Teho had ever heard. Daddy, I have brothers and sisters, she said. So many brothers and sisters. Teho laughed too, even though tears were still on his face. Yes, you do. A very big family. The news spread quickly through the colony. Humans talked about the little girl who had become nestkin to dragons. Valari talked about the hatchlings who had saved a dying human child. Some humans were confused. Some Valari were angry. How could this be allowed? It went against everything they knew. But many others felt something different. They felt hope. If a human child could become family to dragons, maybe humans and Valari were not so different after all. Maybe the walls between them could come down. On the 5th day, Yuna finally left the nursery. But she did not leave alone. Sol, the red hatchling, walked beside her. The other hatchlings chirped sadly when she left, but they knew she would come back. They could feel her, even when she was far away. Teho held his daughter's hand as they walked through the Valari district. Valari watched them pass. Some looked angry, some looked curious, some looked amazed. But no one tried to stop them. The elders had spoken. Yuna was nestkin. She was welcome here. When they reached the border between the Valari district and the human sections, Teho stopped. He looked down at his daughter and the small dragon at her side. Ready to go home? He asked. Yuna smiled. I am ready, Daddy. But can Sol come with us? Teho looked at the red hatchling. Sol looked back at him with golden eyes. The little dragon chirped softly. Yes, Teho said. I think Sol can come with us. They walked into the human section together. A human father, his healed daughter, and a baby dragon. 3 beings from 2 worlds. Now one family. Everything had changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. 1 year had passed since Yuna walked into the dragon nursery. 1 year since the hatchling saved her life. 1 year since everything changed. Teho stood at the window of their new home and watched the sunrise over Colony Vera 7. Their old room had been too small, so the colony gave them a larger place. It was near the border between human and Valari sections, so Yuna could visit her dragon family easily. Life was so different now. Yuna ran past him, laughing. She was 8 years old, healthy and strong. Her cheeks were pink, her eyes were bright. She had energy that never seemed to end. The sickness that had stolen her childhood was gone forever. Saul ran after her. The red dragon was bigger now, about the size of a large dog. His scales shone like rubies in the morning light. His small wings had grown stronger. He could not fly yet, but he was learning. "Saul, catch me!" Una shouted as she ran through the living room. Saul chirped happily and chased her. His claws clicked on the floor. His tail swung back and forth. Tejo smiled. He still could not believe this was his life now. His daughter, healthy and happy. A dragon living in their home. Everything he had feared had turned into everything he had hoped for. There was a knock at the door. Tejo opened it and found Valisa standing outside. The silver-scaled healer had become a friend to their family over the past year. "Good morning, Tejo," she said warmly. "Is Una ready?" "Almost. She is playing with Saul." Valisa smiled. As always, today was a special day. The Valari elders had called a great meeting. All of the colony would be there, both humans and Valari. They were going to announce something important. Tejo helped Una put on her best clothes. He brushed her long black hair until it shone. Saul sat beside them, watching with calm golden eyes. "Are you nervous?" Tejo asked his daughter. Una shook her head. "No, Daddy. I am excited. I get to see all my brothers and sisters today." Tejo's heart swelled with love. Even after a year, Una still called the hatchlings her brothers and sisters, and they still treated her as one of their own. They walked together to the Great Hall. It was a huge room in the center of the colony where important events were held. Today, it was filled with thousands of people. Humans stood on one side. Valari stood on the other. But unlike before, the two groups were not completely separate. Some humans stood among Valari. Some Valari stood among humans. Things had been changing slowly over the past year. The story of Una and the hatchlings had touched many hearts. People began to question the old rules. Why must we stay apart? Why cannot we be friends? Tejo, Una, and Sol walked to the front of the hall. The hatchlings were there, all grown bigger now. When they saw Una, they chirped and crowded around her. She laughed and hugged as many as she could. The oldest Valari elder stepped onto the raised platform. His name was Charon, and he had lived for over 1,000 years. His scales were dark, gray, almost black. His eyes held the wisdom of ages. "Friends," Charon said, his deep voice filling the hall. "Humans and Valari. We have gathered here today for an important moment." The crowd went silent. For many years, our two peoples have lived apart. We shared this colony, but we did not share our lives. We were neighbors, but we were not friends. This was the old way. Charon paused and looked down at Una, standing with her dragon siblings. 1 year ago, a little human girl walked into our nursery. She was sick. She was dying. Our hatchling saw her weakness and did something we never expected. They saved her life. They made her one of us. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Everyone knew the story, but hearing it from the oldest elder made it feel more real. We could have rejected this. We could have said it was a mistake. We could have kept the old walls standing. Charon shook his head slowly. But we chose not to. We chose to accept this gift. We chose to let Una become nestkin. He looked out at the crowd. And in that choice, we learned something important. We learned that our hatchlings are wiser than us. They did not see a human child. They saw a creature in need. They did not ask about treaties or rules or traditions. They simply helped. Charon spread his massive wings, just a little. Perhaps it is time for us to do the same. The crowd was completely silent now. Everyone waited to hear what he would say next. Today, the elders have decided to change the old treaty. Humans and Valari will no longer be required to live apart. The borders between our sections will remain, but they will no longer be walls. They will be bridges. Anyone who wishes to visit, to learn, to make friends across species may do so. A wave of surprise moved through the hall. Humans looked at each other with wide eyes. Valari whispered among themselves, "This does not mean we forget who we are." Charon continued, Humans are humans. Valari are Valari. We are different, and we will always be different. But different does not mean separate. Different does not mean enemies. Different can mean friends who learn from each other. Don't. He looked down at Yuna again and smiled. Yuna, daughter of Teho, you are the bridge between our peoples. You carry human blood and Valari fire. You belong to both worlds. We are honored to have you as our nest kin. Yuna bowed her head respectfully. Thank you, Elder Charon. I am honored to have so many brothers and sisters. The crowd began to clap, humans and Valari both. The sound filled the great hall like thunder. Teho watched his daughter standing tall and proud. He remembered the pale, sick girl who could barely walk. He remembered his fears, his tears, his hopelessness. All of that was gone now. In its place was joy. After the ceremony, there was a great celebration. Humans and Valari ate together for the first time. They talked, they laughed, they shared stories. Children played with hatchlings, adults spoke with elders. Teho stood to the side, watching it all with a full heart. Dongsu, his old supervisor, walked over to him. I never thought I would see this day, Dongsu said. Humans and dragons, celebrating together. Teho nodded. Neither did I. Your daughter started all of this, you know. If she had not wandered into that nursery, she was looking for warmth, Teho said quietly. She was so cold. She just wanted to be warm. Dongsu put a hand on his shoulder. And look what she found, more than warmth. She found a family. She found a future for all of us. Yuna ran over to her father with Sol at her heels. Behind them came a group of hatchlings, all chirping happily. Daddy, come play with us, she said. Sol wants to show you how far he can glide. Teho laughed. Okay, show me. He followed his daughter out of the great hall and into the open air. The sun was shining. The sky was clear. Sol spread his wings and jumped off a low wall, gliding for several meters before landing. Yuna cheered. The other hatchlings chirped with excitement. Teho clapped his hands. Very good, Sol. You are getting better. Sol puffed up his chest proudly. Yuna hugged him around the neck. Teho watched them and felt peace in his heart. This was his life now. A daughter who was healthy and happy. A dragon who was like a son to him. A future where anything seemed possible. He thought about the day Yuna was born. The doctors said she would not live long. They said to prepare for the worst. But she had lived. She had fought. And when she was at her weakest, she had found help in the most unexpected place. Teho looked up at the sky and whispered a silent, thank you. To the dragons. To the universe. To whatever force had brought them to this place at this time. His daughter had been weak. The dragon babies had made her strong. And in doing so, they had changed everything. Humans and Valari. Two species. One future. All because a little girl went looking for warmth and found so much more.